What's up, everybody? So last time we talked about how we can build the major scale using step patterns of whole steps, half steps. We also talked about intervals and how you can use them to build the major scale, but also how you can use them to build chords. So those intervals are as follows on piano: the unison, minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, augmented fourth, diminished fifth, perfect fifth, minor sixth, major sixth, minor seventh, major seventh, and octave. Alright, so we had built the chords C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C. So when we formed the major scale, we formed the chords of the major scale, we gave each one of those chords a Roman numeral identifying its position along the scale. So now we're going to take those chords, those Roman numerals, and mix them around to understand exactly how they relate to one another and how they all relate back to the primary chord, the tonic chord of the scale, which in this case is C major. We're going to explore its diatonic function and how all those chords can form different progressions to create our harmonic foundation. In Hugo Riemann's theory, there was three primary types of functions for chords. You had the tonic, which in this case would be C, and you had subdominant, and you had dominant. So if we take the C major scale, and we start out on C, that is our tonic, or our root, or our home chord. And then the fourth chord, which would be F major, that would be our subdominant. And then we have G major, which would be our dominant chord, which resolves us very nicely back to C. So a key thing about those three chords is that if you take the individual notes of each one, they form up all the notes of the C major scale. So between those three chords, those three primary chords, you can get all the notes of the C major scale, which makes it really easy to put melodies over or to work the C major scale over if you're soloing or any kind of melodic content that's based around that scale. That will fit over those chords very nicely. The Viennese theory of using Roman numerals, which is more common today, was pioneered by several people, namely Simon Sechter, Arnold Schoenberg, and Heinrich Schenker. So those three primary chords, the 1, the 4, and the 5, or in this case our C, F major, G major, and we'll go back to C. Those make up a very common chord progression that's found in a variety of music. A lot of pop music, rock music, pretty much anything you hear on the radio just about has that built into it. That is your basic, just easy strumming cowboy chord progression. So we're going to label our chords accordingly. We have C as our home. It's what we're always trying to get back to. We're always trying to make it back home. It's our tonic, it's our root chord. We have D, that's our supertonic, and it always wants to resolve to a dominant chord, such as G. Of course, G is our dominant. And then our subdominant chord is our F. Now back on dominant chords here for a second. The dominant chord always wants to resolve back home. So you'll find a lot of progressions that are C, G, then back to C, back and forth. And then, of course, the most common one, they'll add in the fourth. But it resolves nicely back from G to C because G is the dominant chord, or the fifth chord in our progression here. So then the sixth chord, which is an A minor, that chord is usually used in like a deceptive cadence. So if you're playing, say, C, then we'll go to our fourth, and then we'll go to G, but instead of going to C, we go to A minor, and then maybe we come back and play the mediant, which is E minor, then go to G, and back to C. Just an example there. So that was our next one, was our mediant, which is E minor. And then we have our leading tone, which is our B diminished, which is also a dominant chord and wants to go back to C very badly. Most people don't like the sound of the B diminished chord, but it shares a lot in common. As a matter of fact, two notes in common with G. It's B, D, and F, and then a G major chord is G, B, and D. So they share that D and B combination. So if you just throw that F in there, basically what you have is a G7 chord, or a 5-7, which goes back to C, or home, very nicely. So those are our dominant chords, or chords that have a dominant function, is our fifth chord and our seventh chord, or our dominant chord and our leading tone. But typically, because most people like to avoid that diminished sound, using the fifth to go back to C, or the 5-7 is usually more preferable. So if we take a look at this chart here, it's got all of our chord positions, starting with the mediant over here on the left, and on your right, far right, the tonic. Really, you can start anywhere, technically, and if you're at the tonic, as it says there at the bottom, it says you can move to any chord after the tonic. But basically, if we're playing in the key of C major, then that's the tonic is what we're really emphasizing. That's what everything is going to point back to. It's home, as we've discussed already. So we're always going home. We're leaving home. We're making longer trips from home. Sometimes we're making shorter trips from home. That might be the going from the tonic to the dominant, which is our fifth there. And just straight back home to one. That happens sometimes. But this is kind of it's here to guide you. There's really no rules to music. It's all suggestions, pretty much. But obviously, if you follow some kind of form or follow some kind of order, you can get a better understanding for things and understand how stuff works together. So if you follow these arrows right here, this is going to lead you into some common transitions between these chords, and you'll understand better how they relate to one another. So for now, I just urge you to start somewhere and then follow these arrows and go where they lead you, and just try some different combinations and see what you get. See what it sounds like, see what it makes you feel emotionally, and what it reveals to you musically. We can start on the 1 and say we go back over here to the 3, and then say we move, instead of going to the 6th there, which is our submediant, we go to our subdominant, and then we go to say we go to our supertonic, and then after that we go back to the 1. So we have a 1, 3, 4, 2, 1 progression. Say we started on the after that progression, we ended on 1 there. Say then we go to the dominant, which is our 5th, and say that takes us back to our submediant, and this time we'll go to the supertonic, and then we'll go to the dominant again, and then go home, back to 1. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Just play around with it and see what you come up with. And then in a future video, we'll discuss this more and go over kind of what these progressions are called and what are some common progressions and what people have referred to them as over the decades, so, or even centuries. So yeah, just play around with it. So I want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, slap the like button. Hit the bell so you get notifications when I upload a new video. Subscribe, please. And yeah, hopefully I'll make another video here before too long, kind of a part 2 of diatonic function, and I'll show you more of the chords, how they relate to one another, kind of what some common chord progressions are, and just go over those relationships. And yeah, we'll just build up more information on what we've already established and go from there. So we'll see you then.